Be honest, how many times have you opened up your laptop, stared at the blank page, and thought, nope, well, that's writer's block. And every writer has dealt with it at some point in time, from famous writers like Mark Twain, Maya Angelou, Stephen King. It happens to the best of us. If you're experiencing writer's block, that might be why you're tuning into this video right now. But trust me, you're not broken. You just need a little bit of help. And that's what this video is about. After writing a dozen or so novels myself, and certainly facing lots of writer's block, these are my top tips on how I kind of broke through to the other side. You'll definitely want to stay tuned till the end for my favorite tip. So let's get straight into it. My first tip right off the bat is to lower your bar of perfection. We've probably all heard the old saying, perfection is the enemy of good. In the case of writer's block, perfection is really the enemy of getting any type of work done whatsoever. At least that's what I found in my experience. I sort of tend to be a writer who doesn't want to do a lot of drafts, and so a lot of times when I'm writing a book, I'll find myself wanting to write the perfect scene, the perfect action, the perfect dialogue just once and be one and done. But if I really think about it, that's not exactly realistic. I think we need to remember when we're doing our first drafts, our second drafts, whatever draft we may be on, we have to kind of remember that a lot of times these early drafts are rough drafts. And so what a rough draft is like, it means this is where we're kind of spilling all the beans on the page. It's not gonna look too pretty all the time. And maybe we're gonna come out with some great gems of writing. But at the same time, we're probably also gonna write some trash, I guess. We're gonna have some times when we're not so clean, not so polished. We're gonna amble a little bit on the page. And so we just kind of need to relax. We need to understand, basically, no one is gonna read this draft but you. And so really, you need to become your own cheerleader. Don't be your worst critic right now, because that's just gonna hinder you from continuing on with your story. Give yourself permission to be bad, to be cringe, to not always know where you're going with something. You can always put, and a lot of times I do this too, if I don't know where exactly I'm going, or even like I get stuck on the name of a character or a town, instead of that letting me trip me up, I'll oftentimes just put in brackets on my page, insert this scene here, insert this town name here, insert character name, and so on and so on. And the point of that is really to just make sure that I continue to write. I don't let details like that keep me from the overall story that I'm working on. So this tip is really just about giving yourself permission to be bad on the page, giving yourself permission to write a first or second draft that isn't all the way polished and doesn't always necessarily know where it's going. And I really think that once you start relaxing on the page and just giving yourself a little bit of leeway to be bad, to be a hot mess, you know, however you want to think about it, that'll really loosen up whatever is kind of keeping you from continuing on in that current work that you're working on at that moment. My next tip is to recognize creative burnout. And also I'll add to recognize burnout in general, because just like any other muscle in your body, your brain can also get fatigued as well. So it's really important to notice when you just need a break. And you may need a break from your story. You may need a break just from writing altogether. It's really up to you to check in with yourself and decide. And that's not to say that writer's block can't certainly feel like other things. Sometimes it can feel like just an inability to focus. It can feel like you're not good enough. It can feel even like depression. So I think it's really important to check in with yourself and see what is going on with you. But in the case of creative burnout, I would say take a break from your current story or novel or whatever you're working on, and write something else. Decide maybe you're going to do flash fiction. Maybe you're going to try poetry. Maybe you're going to work on something completely different, which is certainly a strategy that I took the other day. There was just an idea nagging at me. I'm in the middle of working on a novel right now, but this idea kept nagging at me so much that my novel, I was not making the same amount of progress as I had before. So what I did is I started writing this other idea in my head, maybe for about 100, 200 words or so, and that kind of got it out of my system. And it also freed up my creative process where I could start to write and work on my novel again. Because now this idea wasn't distracting me. I kind of got it out of my system. I also freed up myself to work because the novelness of a new project kind of inspired me to write more. So certainly don't be afraid to try other creative outlets. And that also leads me to my next point, is just because you're a writer doesn't mean you can't be a different type of artist too. So if you're really, really burnt out on writing, do something else creatively. You can paint, you can draw, you can, do all kinds of different mediums to express yourself and kind of still keep that creative flow. Even something as simple as reading, another piece of work that inspires you, anything like that. Sometimes I've read true crime stories, things that are unbelievable, things that actually happened, and sometimes that'll just spark enough in my brain to keep going with my current progress. I also want to say that if you don't want to do anything with the arts or writing, or you're not an artist and that's just going to make you feel weird, I think it's important to just kind of keep your brain sharp. So even if you want to turn to something else, like I'm going to do a puzzle, I'm going to focus on something else a little bit that's not related to writing whatsoever, but still going to keep my brain sharp. I think that that's super, super important. And that's a great strategy to utilize too. I will say, I think we also need to recognize when we just need plain old rest from everything. In that same vein, I'll say a lot of times, I think for me at least, I'll be having a hard time focusing or feel uninspired with my story if I've been utilizing a lot of social media scrolling or things that don't really let me concentrate. So I'd say if you're going to give yourself total rest, step away from everything. Don't just decide, okay, I'm gonna relax and I'm just gonna chill out on my phone and scroll. And just take dedicated rest. Because I will say, the more that I scroll and use my phone and I'm taking in snippets of information, 10 seconds, 30 seconds at a time, it really, really makes it hard for me to go back to the page where I need full focus for the amount of time that I'm going to write. Set a date on the calendar for when you're gonna return to your manuscript, your document, and then take your rest guilt-free. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel bad. This is the rest that you need. This is what your mind and your body is telling you need. So do it. And this is my final and favorite tip. And of course, it's don't be afraid to get weird. And what that means is basically, I've noticed that there's a little bit of a honeymoon period that goes on when we first start a project, story, or a novel. And, the idea is new and shiny, and maybe not every path has been taken yet, not every character has been fleshed out. And so it's really fun. It keeps our fingers typing or however we're writing. And I think a lot of times when we sort of get stuck, it's because we've lost that novelty. And so where getting weird comes into play is I want you to think about a writing exercise where you drop something totally unexpected into your story. You can drop, all of a sudden your character is confronted with a bear, your character is confronted with aliens, your character is confronted with a person that they thought was dead. Any kind of situation that's gonna be like, oh, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Just try to drop something weird and novel and strange into your story or document, and then just go from there. Give yourself permission to explore that idea. A lot of times, those kind of exercises, even if you don't use them, and you absolutely can use them, you can make it a dream sequence or whatever you want. But even if you don't use them, a lot of times it's a good way to explore your story, explore what ifs, and kind of explore your character's backstory and how they would react when faced with certain situations too. And so by getting weird, giving yourself permission to deviate away a little bit from where you thought your story was going, I think is a good way to kind of loosen yourself up. Even if you say, I'm not going to use this, I feel weird even putting this scene where my character is confronted with a bear in my manuscript, make a different document, put it in a different folder, and be like, this is my experimental weird scene that I'm gonna write just to loosen up. I'm gonna see what comes out. A lot of the times you'll be surprised at the different pathways that this is gonna light up for you, either in your story or just in your brain creatively. So I really think just kind of giving yourself permission to write something odd and off the wall in your story, or even just something new that's weird and different from what you're writing right now, can really kind of loosen you up a little bit and help you get past that writer's block that may make you be stalling up on the page. And so I'll kind of wrap it up by saying writing is a discipline. It's a habit that you need to make, just like anything else. Just like if you exercise every day, if you work out a certain muscle, it's certainly the same thing. You need to have a little bit of discipline to show up even when you may not necessarily feel like it. I think some people will say, well, writer's block isn't real. It's just like you don't want to write. And to a certain degree, that's true, but it also can feel like a very real thing at the time. And it's actually upsetting when it happens. We know that we have words inside us. We had a story at one point in time that was inspiring us. It can affect us to feel like we no longer have any words to write or that we can't write. But, you know, there are strategies, like we've highlighted in this video, of ways to get writing again. Even if it's not that particular project that you're working on right now, the important thing is to start the act of writing again. Just like if you injured one part of your body, maybe you don't necessarily give up on exercising altogether. Maybe you work out the part of your body that you still can work out. Just remember, writing is a discipline. It is a habit and a skill that you have to build up just the way you would build up anything else in life. So give yourself some grace and just kind of remember, sometimes you got to show up to the page and you got to do it. I will also say it is good to establish a writing routine too. So if you can block out a certain chunk of your day for writing that you know every day, it can be ritualized for writing. I would really kind of recommend that, because then your mind and your body is like, okay, it's time to write. So those are my tips, and I hope that this helped you. If this helped you, feel free to give us a subscribe or a like so we can keep making these videos. And let us know in the comments the way that you've tackled writer's block. And we will see you on the next one. We appreciate you. Take care and bye.